TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem, and in today's top stories. At a meeting of the UN Security Council, the world body's Secretary General Antonio Guterres referred to Israel's aspiration to assert its sovereignty over parts of the West Bank, a threat that would constitute a most serious violation of international law. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani stresses Tehran's will to negotiate with Washington only if the latter would apologize to the Iranian nation, compensate for damages, and reinstate the 2015 nuclear agreement with the Islamic Republic. Lebanon's Hezbollah is evidently impeding on efforts by Beirut's government to bring about much-needed reform, further distancing the country from prospects of an international economic bailout. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres referred to Israel's aspiration to assert its sovereignty over parts of the disputed territories on the West Bank of the Jordan River a threat that would constitute a most serious violation of international law. Speaking at a teleconference of the United Nations Security Council, the world body's chief further called upon Jerusalem to abandon its referred to plans.
Israel's threat to annex parts of the occupied West Bank has alarmed Palestinians, many Israelis, and the broader international community. If implemented, annexation would constitute a most serious violation of international law, grievously harm the prospect of a two-state solution, and undercut the possibilities of a renewal of negotiations. I call on the Israeli government to abandon its annexation plans.
The voiced position by the Secretary General projected the widespread sentiment of the majority of state representatives attending the discussion. Nevertheless, among the few nations holding an alternate position, U.S. Ambassador to the UN Kelly Craft urged the Council to self-reflect on whether doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result was the right course of action vis-à-vis the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
I understand that many of you have concerns with this issue of the potential extension of Israeli sovereignty in the West Bank. At the same time, we ask that you also hold the Palestinian leadership accountable for acts they are responsible for. It doesn't help anyone to look backwards and point to what could have been. The Palestinian leadership has a responsibility to pursue the prosperity of their people. At the end of the day, is reverting to old talking points the best we can do as an international community?
Representing the Palestinians, Foreign Minister Riyad al-Malki was quick to dismiss the Americans as biased while urging the world to reject what he referred to as Israel's colonial appetite.
Israel is testing the resolve of the international community, thinking its colonial appetite will prevail over the collective international will to advance regional peace and security, and to preserve the rule-based multilateral order. We must prove it wrong.
In response to the repeated condemnations and warnings voiced over the so-called prospects of annexation, the Israeli ambassador to the UN, Dani Danon, lambasted the Palestinian narrative, which claims historic ownership of the West Bank.
Let's be honest. Let's be clear. The PLO is not and never was a state and has never been the sovereign in this territory. Never. Prove me wrong on that.
Danon went on to highlight the Jewish connection to the so-called West Bank, which includes the biblical districts of Judea and Samaria.
There is a strong and undeniable connection between the Jewish people and their historic homeland of Judea and Samaria. This has been true for over 3 millennia, and no Palestinian propaganda can change that.
Turning now to the Islamic Republic of Iran, where President Hassan Rouhani told his cabinet ministers Tehran remains willing to negotiate with Washington if the latter would apologize to the Iranian nation, compensate for the damages, and reinstate the 2015 nuclear agreement with the Islamic Republic.
ساده است عذرخواهی از ملت ایران، جبران خسارت‌ها، بازگشت به مقررات، بازگشت به چارچوب 5+1 میتونه باز هم راه حل باشه. ما معطل هیچی نیستیم. ما همیشه آماده ایم هر لحظه ای که آمریکا اعلام بکنه به قانون برگشته، اعلام کنه به مقررات سازمان ملل برگشته، بگه من برگشتم به تعهدات خودم در برجام و بگه کنگره آمریکا و کاخ سفید با هم مصمم شدن از مسیر اشتباه خودشون برگردن و برگردن به 5+1، ما همون لحظه آماده ایم.
The Iranian president went on to respond to a resolution that was adopted by the International Atomic Energy Agency, which called upon Iran to fully cooperate with the nuclear watchdog. The resolution came after Tehran refused IAEA requests to inspect 2 Iranian sites suspected of undeclared nuclear activities. Instead of responding to the international call for Iran to accept inspections of the suspected sites, the Iranian leader insisted that the IAEA were subject to the deception of the United States and Israel.
دارن گول میزنن، آژانس رو از مسیر خودش منحرف میکنن. ما البته هر وقت بخوایم پاسخ قاطع بدیم آسونه برای ما پاسخ دادن، اما مبنای ما همیشه همکاری بوده با آژانس. امروز هم این مبنا رو ما حفظ میکنیم، همکاری با آژانس رو.
Meanwhile, in Washington, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo reiterated the Trump administration's policy, which remained consistent all along. Once Iran starts to behave like a normal nation, he said, the United States would be happy to engage in conversations. Nevertheless, the American top diplomat stressed that the Iranians cannot expect to exploit the United States, as it managed to do with the previous administration.
The United States has been clear about our expectations. We've been clear about our goals. We asked the Islamic Republic Iran to behave like a normal nation. We're happy to engage in conversations with them when the time is right. But the conditions that suggest somehow we give a bunch of money to the Iranians so they can foment terror around the world is simply ludicrous. It's just not how this administration behaves.
Secretary Pompeo went on to address Iran's refusal to cooperate with the International Atomic Energy Agency.
Iran's denial of access to IAEA inspectors and refusal to cooperate with the IAEA's investigation of potentially undeclared nuclear material and activity raises serious questions about Tehran's efforts and what it is precisely that they are trying to hide. Iran's refusal to cooperate is wholly separate from the JCPOA. This is simply about whether Iran is honoring its own legally binding safeguards obligations. If Iran fails, if it fails to cooperate with the IAEA obligations, the international community must be prepared to take further action.
Turning to the unrest in Israel's northern neighbor Lebanon in light of a profound economic crisis, the top American diplomat emphasized that Washington would only opt to assist Beirut authorities if they would initiate real reforms and operate in a way that is not beholden to the Iranian proxy Hezbollah, which is internationally listed as a terrorist organization.
Our policy is very clear. We are fully prepared to support a government that conducts real reforms and operates in a way that is not beholden to Hezbollah. When that comes, when the government demonstrates, whoever that is, demonstrates their willingness and capacity to do that, I think not only the United States but the whole world will move in to assist the Lebanese government get its economy back on its feet. We're prepared to do that. It's the right thing for the Lebanese people. It's what the protests that are taking place not only in Beirut but all around Lebanon are asking for. Real reform, real change, a fundamental shift away from Hezbollah as the governing power inside of Lebanon.
Lebanon's deep-rooted economic crisis has seemingly deteriorated in recent months. The Lebanese pound has lost some 70% of its value since October. And while a technocratic government was appointed after years of political instability, the then emerging corona pandemic consequently deepened the public's distress, reigniting public protests that quickly exacerbated into violent riots. Nevertheless, Beirut authorities remain adamant at negotiating foreign bailout with the International Monetary Fund.
We're not yet at the stage to discuss specific measures under a possible fund program to support Lebanon. The discussions remain focused on the government's plan. I have said that here before. The government's diagnostic and the reforms proposed. Again, these are complex issues which require consensus on how to address the difficult challenge in an effective and equitable manner. Comprehensive reforms in many areas are needed, and these require ownership and consensus from society at large.
In addition to international reluctance to assist Lebanon financially over Hezbollah's influence over Beirut, the Iranian proxy is making it near impossible to implement demanded reform, as it evidently struggles financially due to international economic sanctions against its patrons in Tehran. In a televised address, Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Rouhani sought to dissuade any reliance on international support.
نحن الشعب اللبناني ما بيقدر يستمر هيك انه نحن قاعدين ناطرين الامريكان. هلا في مفاوضات مع صندوق النقد الدولي ما بعرف قد ايه بتستمر، شهر 2 في حكي بسنه. البلد بيحمل سنه.
And while the Hezbollah leader did not manage to provide a solution for Lebanon's economic woes, he sought to alleviate fears in neighboring Syria over its growing economic distress after the European Union and United States ratcheted up pressure on the Assad regime in Damascus.
اليوم أنا بحب أكد للشعب السوري ولكل إخواننا بسوريا وللمهتمين بلبنان وبالمنطقة بمصير سوريا، حلفاء سوريا اللي وقفوا معاها بالحرب العسكرية وبالحرب الأمنية وبالحرب السياسية، وحتى لو كانت ظروفهم صعبة لن يتخلوا عن سوريا في مواجهة الحرب الاقتصادية، ولن يسمحوا بسقوط سوريا في مواجهة الحرب الاقتصادية.
Thank you for watching us. As part of TV7's Global Prayer Initiative, I would like to encourage you today to join myself and the team here in Jerusalem to pray for the salvation and peace of Bolivia, alongside our ongoing prayers for the peace of Jerusalem, salvation of Israel, as well as for all those who are impacted by the corona contagion worldwide. I'm Jonathan Hassan. Have an Erev Tov, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.